What's going on, legends? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm bringing us a quick mission guide for the White Lotus Tier 5 mission here in Season 4, known as Crunch. Now, this one is only going to be one part, but it's definitely on the more challenging end, at least if you have to complete it the intended way. However, after actually completing this mission, I might have some information that could make it a lot easier. Now, if you guys do remember the Deadlines mission that asked us to complete 4 contracts in under 6 minutes, this one is a little bit more challenging because it asked us to complete 8 contracts in under 15 minutes. Now, it is double the contracts with a little over double the time, but you're going to have to move extremely fast and complete these contracts extremely quick in order to actually be able to complete 8 contracts in under 15 minutes. If you guys haven't done the math here, that's literally an average of less than 2 minutes per contract, and that does include the travel time from in between contracts. You guys are going to want to be able to get to these contracts fairly quickly, which would be a lot easier on Vondel. Not only that, you guys are going to want to go over to Vondel for the simple fact that it does increase the rate in which the easy contracts will be in the same area, meaning you guys could go to an area that has multiple HVTs, being very close together, allowing you to complete those super quick as well. Now, if you guys are going to go ahead and infill into Vondel and do this the correct way, what you would want to do, of course, is go ahead and infill. More than likely, a good strategy would be to head over to a nuclear supplies contract, go ahead and initiate the contract, head over to the toolbox, where you then would be able to get access to the Geiger counter. And the purpose for this is that it would allow you to actually add the nuclear materials contract to one of the contracts that you could complete in that quick duration, being that you would already have a Geiger counter, being able to skip that step. So basically at that point, you'd be able to grab a nuclear supplies contract in the future, be able to head straight over to the 2 locations, grab the 2 caches obviously at that point, completing the contract in significantly less time. But basically at that point, if you had a Geiger counter, you would just go into Vondel, being able to access any of these contracts. Now, my recommendation, of course, would be the HVTs, the signals intelligence, the secure supplies, or again, those nuclear materials contracts, as if you already had access to the Geiger counter, you'd be able to move through all of these very, very quickly. Now, depending on the area in which these are actually located, and obviously a little bit of RNG, would determine how hard it would be to get from contract to contract, and obviously to get over to where the contract actually sends you to be able to complete that mission. So realistically, you would go in, you'd go to 1 HVT, you guys would complete that. A really good habit to form when you're doing contracts like this is before you actually go ahead and grab a contract is to ping the next one that you intend to grab. That way, when you grab the contract and they all disappear, you'll still have a pretty good idea of where your next location is going to be. And you guys will go ahead and move from location to location, completing these contracts as quickly as possible, being able to knock out 8 contracts in under the 15 minutes. Now, you would actually have to move pretty quickly through these contracts in order to be able to do it in under the 15 minutes. However, when I actually went to do this contract, I found out there were some issues with it as well. Now, the good news here is when I actually went to do this, I discovered that it didn't matter if the 15 minutes was up or not. I was still able to actually complete this process, and the reason that was is because I had this actually equipped. I went in to do some other missions. I managed to complete a couple of contracts during that run. During the run, I completed a couple of contracts. We then at some point exfilled safely. Then when we went back to the lobby, like many other missions that I've completed in the past where I gained some sort of progress, it did show 2 out of 8 for the contracts. Now, the weird thing here is I unequipped this mission at that point, and at some point even got off the game multiple times, where I then loaded it back up later to play at another time. Now, during any of these processes, I expected it to get reset, or at least at some point when I re-equipped it and actually loaded it into a match, I expected it to go back to 0 out of 8. Now, during the run that I actually completed this mission, it was not the intention to go for this mission specifically. I actually just had it equipped, and I was actually going for contractual obligations, which asks you to do 8 different contract types in a single run. Also a pretty challenging mission, and that's how I found out that I didn't need to do this in under 15 minutes. Now, when I loaded into the run to complete contractual obligations, I also had Crunch on as well, and at that point, obviously, I expected it to go back to 0 out of 8, but it didn't. So then when I went and grabbed the first contract, I expected it would reset then, and I wasn't really paying attention to the contract at that time. Now, while I was going through the run, going from contract to complete my own mission, now at some point during the run, I did actually get Crunch completed. Now, the confusing part for me here was it was after I completed the 7th contract during that run, and it definitely wasn't within 15 minutes, as we actually took more than 20 minutes or over 25 minutes to get all of these contracts actually completed to be able to do this mission that I was working toward. Now, another thing that didn't make a lot of sense when actually completing this mission was the fact that I completed it after completing about 7 contracts. However, I was at a 2 out of 8 progress when I started the match. So realistically, I would have only needed 6 contracts and another 15 minutes there in order to actually complete it if that was the intention. However, I somehow still had to complete 7 contracts in a row out of the 8 that I was going for this other mission, and I did not complete them in the 15 minutes. However, they all counted towards the progress for Crunch, and I still got 8 out of 8 for Crunch, knocking it out after completing my 7th one. So what I think actually happened here is that the 15-minute timer is not attached to the contract whatsoever. So when you actually complete contracts, although the timer does pop up saying that you have 15 minutes left, even after the 15-minute timer expires, the contracts don't reset. So all you should have to do is go in and complete 8 contracts, and the time shouldn't matter whatsoever, and you guys probably will still get this complete. Or if you guys already have it partially complete, just go into another run, continue completing contracts, and eventually this progress will go through, knocking out this mission. That's going to wrap things up for today's quick mission guide. Thank you guys for all the support in today's video, all the support in the channel, and I look forward to seeing y'all in the next one. Peace.